I'm Jenna LaGrange, and this is Embracing the Chaos. Hey guys, I'm Jenna LaGrange, a woman of many titles, to include recovering alcoholic, mom of two, wife. I'm currently on active duty with the Army, part-time police officer, many other titles. Oh, gym owner would be another one, as well as part-time photographer in my spare time. And on today's podcast, I have a very special guest. I will let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Jack LaGrange.
Hi, Jack LaGrange, aka Babes, aka my husband. So, with this podcast, I have quite a few titles, and I'd like to think that you have quite a few yourself. So, what are some titles that you would give yourself?
I'm a United States Marine, former police officer, retired, gym owner as well. And I joined in Muay Thai, and I guess I would be a master in Taekwondo as well.
I would also call you my stay-at-home daddy, baby daddy, uh, care of our children,
Yeah, that too.
keeps the house together, functioning, moving forward, things along those lines.
Yeah, I guess that'll
Would
work.
you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay. Living your best life, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So on today's episode, we are going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into episode 1. Had a couple questions come in, and along the way, Jack will pipe in as we're going. So for this first part, deep dive into why I became a recovering alcoholic, or alcoholic, I should say. What kind of led to that? So we're gonna go way back in the day to the childhood. I don't want to say that I had a bad childhood. It had its moments, and for the most part, it was all right. I have a very loving mother who I care for a lot. She's a big part of my life today, and she was a big part back then. And everything that happened throughout my childhood, I would say, is really out of her control. My dad, or who I know to be today to be my stepdad, I did not find out that he was my stepdad until I was in my 20s, and that is a podcast for another day. But just so you know, I will refer to him as my stepdad. He is one of the many reasons I am the way that I am today. Um, Jack can contest to some of the um, triggers that I have that sometimes we hit on, and he takes the brunt of what comes after when one of those triggers are hit. Would you agree?
No.
With love, of course.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that. So, my childhood, again, it wasn't bad. There's others that have had a lot worse childhoods than I've had, but I would say that it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Where to begin? So, I do have some physical scars, and those are things that I will not talk about, but a lot of it was verbal abuse, and that's what I'm going to call it because that's exactly what it was. Things that he would say, and one that sticks out the most to me is telling me that he hated me consistently as a child. And my mother was never around when he would do these things. He would do it when she was not around, which I'm sure was on purpose and for a reason, so she wasn't aware of the behavior that was going on. So him telling me that he hated me, and as a small child, having who you thought was your dad tell you that they hate you on a regular day-to-day basis, well, gosh, affects me a lot still today, even though I know that he's my stepdad and it makes a lot more sense. I don't want to say it makes a lot more sense, and I don't want to approve of the behavior, but it does make more sense, I guess, why he was the way he was towards me and not my little brother. My little brother is amazing and thriving, and I'm so proud of him. And I took a lot of the brunt or the most that I could for him because I didn't want him to face a lot of the same problems that I was facing with my stepdad. And I want to preface this a little bit and say that what my brother experienced growing up, what my mom experienced throughout our childhood, all of our experiences are going to be very different because we are different people. How we experience emotions and events are all going to be so different. And I don't expect them to feel the same way or to have the same experience as I had because we all experience things so differently. But that behavior and some of the things that he said, constantly holding things over my head, like if you paid my cell phone bill, helped me with a car payment, paid my insurance, whatever it may be, that was held over my head and used against me in one way or another. And I would say it's why I suffer today with a lot of control issues where I don't allow others to help me in any stretch, in any way. I would rather be dead on a hill trying to fight my way to the top on my own than ask anybody for help. Luckily, Jack's aware of that behavior and does his best to mitigate when I do get into one of those moods where I don't want help. He can read some of my behavior and realize when I'm trying to hold things and don't want to share with him. Would you agree?
I'd have to say yeah on that one.
That's one of those that you will agree on. So it's made me extremely independent, but it's also created a lot of self doubt. I self doubt in every aspect of my life. I don't think I'm a great mom. I don't think I'm good at the job I do for the Army. I don't think I'm a good cop. I doubt my photography. I'm constantly doubting myself, and especially as a fighter, Jack could definitely contest to this that I struggle a lot with self doubt and thinking that I don't deserve to be in the ring with these girls because of some of the things that I dealt with as a child. And that those learned behaviors, because I've also, I guess, learned how to read people a lot better because I was constantly on eggshells. So I can read somebody by the way that they walk, the way that they talk, the way that they're speaking to me at the time. I can tell pretty much when somebody enters the room if they're angry or upset or if there's something wrong because that's something that I had to be able to do as a child because I wasn't sure from hour to hour, not even day to day, from hour to hour, who I was dealing with at the time from my stepdad. Um, I do apply a lot of that today. I think it does help me in a lot of ways, I guess, read people and realize when there's a problem. I can read Jack pretty well for the most part. And most of the people that I interact with, I can instantly tell if there's something wrong, whether I just met you or we've been friends for a long time. And that is because of my childhood. So that is kind of my childhood. Things got worse and my alcohol really started, like I said in the first episode, when I was 15, 16. And the biggest contributor to that was my mom was a federal employee and she was required to deploy my junior year of high school. She was gone my entire junior year of high school, and that is when my anger blossomed. That is when my alcoholic tendencies really started. Um, I was going to parties, sneaking out. I lived out in the middle of nowhere. So parties in a barn in the middle of a cornfield was just something that we did um, and for fun. I was around a lot of drugs, but that is one thing that I never got into. I just don't see the appeal to it, but alcohol I did. Surprisingly, I was not an angry drunk. I was a very happy, let's dance and do crazy stuff kind of drunk. So, like I said, that started really, really started for me my junior year when my mom was gone, trying to deal with day to day. Because, you know, high school girls, you're being bullied at high school, and then I'm coming home and being bullied at home. So it was just a never ending cycle for me. It was very miserable, and I was very unhappy. So that for me really spiked my drive to get out of my home even faster. So, my senior year of high school, my mom's back. I am very angry still and struggling with processing emotions and other things like that. But I knew I needed to get out of that house. So, that was my goal. And I worked my ass off in basketball and ended up getting a full ride scholarship to play in college. I played at Ashford University. They're no longer a physical college, they are an online college only, but they gave me a full ride and I jumped on it immediately. So, my freshman year of high school, uh, or high school, gosh, of college, I played basketball. I fouled out probably 85% of those games, which is a story for another day. But my alcoholness blossomed even more being out of the house, and I appeared to have a little bit more accessibility while I was in college. I made friends with older people that could buy it for me, going to parties, doing all kinds of stuff. And that's when I started to experience blackouts and realizing I could block everything out and forget everything for hours and then not remember any of it. And it was a feeling that I thrived for because I didn't have to deal with what I was thinking internally or dealing with internally. So it thrived my freshman year of college. I loved basketball. I really enjoyed it. My sophomore year, though, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't into it. Kind of lost interest. I don't know why, but I did. And then I decided to enlist in the Army. So I finished out that sophomore year of college. I ended up leaving early so I could go to basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then I went to AIT at Fort Leonard Wood. So, being gone for basic training, guess what? Mom leaves again. Mom goes to Afghanistan the entire time I was at basic training. And I think the entire time I was at basic, I received maybe two or three letters. That was it from my family. Um, Backtrack just a little bit. I also had met an individual who will not be named and a thing that I regret the most. Jack and I imagine that that never happened, but it did, and it's one of those things that I regret a lot, but they were a part of my life at that time, and they didn't even write letters to me in basic. So I wrote home every week and never heard anything back. My mom did the best that she could while she was in Afghanistan. So two of those three letters was from her um, because it took about 3 weeks for me to get any letters. And then the third letter came from my stepdad because I finally wrote home. I wrote a nasty letter and told them not to come for my basic training graduation because I didn't want them to be a part of it because they didn't even have the time to write me a simple, like, hey, I love you letter. Nothing. So I received a letter back from that telling me that he would be there with my little brother and a couple other of my family members and then I didn't have a choice. So that was not something that I needed at the time, but it was something that I had to go through. So I dealt with that. The family day that we had at basic training was terrible. It is what it is. And then I shipped off to AIT and I had a blast. I'm an 88 Mike. For those that don't know, an 88 Mike is a truck driver in simple terms. So I could back a 40-foot trailer, which I find very impressive for a 18, 19-year-old girl. So just putting that out there. So I get done with basic training in AIT. I come back and I fuck around for a while. Um, Decide that, again, I don't want to be in my family home and I need to finish college. So Army pays for some of it, so I utilized that and finished out my bachelor's degree, which is where my alcoholism thrived because that individual I had mentioned that was a part of my life when I had left for basic training is still a part of my life at this period of time. And they were identical to my stepdad, verbally abusive, constantly degrading and making nasty comments. They never laid a hand on me, and nor do I think they ever would have or could have for that matter. But verbally, they could tear me down because I was already weak in that realm of fighting against that because of my stepdad. So I did, unfortunately, marry said individual. only married for about a year, and my alcoholism bloomed because it was constant. They were constantly telling me I was cheating, constantly telling me horrible things about myself, and just not being very nice. Um, so finish out college, married said individual, and then immediately got into, because after I graduated college, or during college, I got into ROTC. ROTC is one way for enlisted to become officers or college students to become officers in the Army. So I utilized that, thought it was cool when I was in school, and decided to do ROTC and become an officer instead of being enlisted. So part of that, after finishing college, getting commissioned to be an officer in the Army, I had to go to what we call BOLIC, Basic Officer Leadership Course. That was at Fort Lee, Virginia. While I was there, the relationship, the person I was with was just horrible. So I was getting blacked out drunk regularly, like regularly, because I didn't want to deal with him. Because if I was blacked out, then I wouldn't remember having to talk to them at all. And it wouldn't be till the next day, just before class, that I would read whatever conversation that we had. They were constantly just, it was just not a good time, and it was not a good time for me at all. So becoming drunk was the easiest way to handle it. So after I get back from Bullock, graduated from that, I immediately got hired on to Rock Island County Jail. And guess what? I get to go away again for another 4-week course in order to be a correctional officer in the state of Illinois. While I am at that course, I have what I like to refer to as an aha moment while I was there. This individual is horrible. So I was there at the academy Sunday through Friday, and then I gotta go home Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday I had to turn around and go back. So first week, fine, get back. He's yelling at me, saying whatever it was that he was saying. So I got completely plastered. Turned around, went back to the academy, did another week. That entire week, he's just texting me horrible things, telling me to do horrible things, whatever it may be. So I come back that second week, and I got so drunk, I ended up passing out in the shower. The house that we lived in had a hot water heater that never died, so I had hot water for a while. And it wasn't until the next morning that I woke up still passed out in the shower. I woke up and realized that this is not the life that I want to live, and I want out of this. So I played pretend for the rest of that day, packed up my stuff like any other weekend, getting ready to go to the academy, and then I left. I got to the academy. I immediately texted, I didn't even call. I texted this individual, told them I wanted a divorce, I was done, and I was not coming back, and I blocked them on everything that I possibly could block them on. And my drinking continued to get worse because dealing with that failure was not something that I'm proud of. Just the relationship as a whole is not something that I'm proud of or talk about very often. So I finish the academy. I am living partially in my childhood home. Again, if we refer back, it's not a place that I want to be. So the abuse, nasty, underhanded comments are coming in rough because of the mistakes that I'd made up to that point. So I ended up getting a second job. So I was working at a tanning salon as well as Rock Island County Jail and taking any extra shifts I possibly could. So I was working 24 hours. I would work a 16-hour shift at the jail. I'd go immediately to the tanning salon and I'd work there. So I just started living out of my car. And this is where Jack comes into my story. So, been living in my car. So there's a lot of stuff in my car. And I had my car parked on the street instead of being parked in the parking lot that they give us for the correction officers. And because my car was parked on the street, poor Jack is the one that gets called. So somebody tried to break into my car while it was parked on the street in front of Rock Island County Jail. If you didn't know, criminals are not the most intelligent individuals there are.
At least we didn't have very far to travel.
Correct. They did not have very far to travel once we figured out who it was. But because my car was parked on the street and not in the lot, city, Rock Island City had to come take that police report instead of county. So Jack comes into my story at this point. I had seen Jack coming in and out of jail. He thoroughly enjoyed arresting people for the craziest things on a regular day-to-day basis. So if I was working and booking on third shift, I can almost guarantee you I was going to see Jack at least once, if not twice, that entire shift. It was just something that we were aware of. So Jack has to show up and take the police report on that car. Now, I really wasn't in the mood for relationships or anything like that, but for whatever reason, this particular night, I was feeling myself. I was like, yep, I seen him walk up, and I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. So those that have ever dealt with law enforcement are in law are blah, 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 gosh, or they are in law enforcement know at the end of talking to somebody, you always ask for what, honey?
Phone numbers.
So I knew this part was coming, and it hit me like a wrecking ball. So Jack proceeds to ask me for my number for his police report, obviously, for his police report. My response back to him was, I'll give you my number if you give me yours. And when I tell you this man turned as red as a tomato, he was as red as a tomato. And mind you, it is cold out. It is not warm at this point. It is like 30 degrees or below. He's not looking at me, and he's just staring at his notepad. I was like, oh no, I made a mistake. I messed up. I shouldn't have shot my shot. Like, very embarrassed. I threw my number out at him, asked him if we were done, and like embarrassing speed walked back into the jail and like tried to hide in a deep dark corner. And then approximately 5 minutes maybe later, I get some text messages from a number that I don't know asking me what color my car is and how many doors it has. And who would it be? Jack LaGrange.
No.
He could have easily driven by and seen my car, but he chose to text me instead.
Hey, in my defense, I was at the police station writing the report, so I needed that information.
Feel like that's an excuse. Besides the point. So I answer his questions and then kind of leave him on red for a while because I had some stuff that I needed to do. So about 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, I text him and start asking him about his tattoos because I had just started my tattoo journey. Our conversation continued throughout that night. We had breakfast that morning and we've been together ever since. Would you agree? Yes. All right. So this is where Jack comes into the spiel. And before we continue my alcoholic recovery journey, we are going to talk to Jack about his recovery or sober journey. I would consider it a sober journey because I don't know if you were really an alcoholic at the time.
I don't think I was actually an alcoholic, but I did have my time with the alcohol.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about when did you first started drinking? When did you first start dabbling in that? And just kind of give us a little bit of that.
Well, I too didn't have a great childhood growing up. My parents both drank. My dad drank way more than my mom did, but my dad drank all the time. So we had in our house an actual bar set up in the basement. So he had alcohol just sitting out. So I mean, I completely had access to alcohol at any time of the day that I wanted. All my friends were kind of, like I guess you could call them closet drinkers because they were quiet about it. But then once they found out that I like to, take a drink every once in a while, then they were like, okay, cool, come on, we're having a party, and then it became more of a thing. I was more of a social drinker, drink a little bit, get buzzing, and because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to lose control. So I would drink to where I felt like I'm starting to lose control, and then I would be done. Um, it didn't really happen until the Marine Corps. I was over in Okinawa, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. I was attached to the military police unit in Camp Courtney, so I would work 2 days on, 2 days off, and then every other weekend would be a 72, which refers to a 3-day weekend. So me and my friends in the Marine Corps, we would go out to the buy me drinky bars and and it's BC Street and Gate 2 Street. If any Marines out there listening to this, um, we'd go down and we'd go to the bars, and I would go way past my under control, I guess you could call it,
Your threshold.
my threshold, and I would end up getting drunk, and then it turned into a pretty much every day that I was off of work, I was getting drunk, and I would just go to work. My days off, boom, be out getting drunk, and then days we work again, and then days off, getting drunk. So it wasn't a whole lot of anything else, but just drinking all the time. So it started wearing on me because I'm not, like I said, I don't like to lose control. But we get through Okinawa, come back, go off to the Gulf War, so there's no alcohol in the Gulf War, and come back, and my 21st birthday is approaching, so I'm not even 21 yet, and I've been doing all this drinking. And then on the Marine Corps base, you could drink not hard alcohol, but you could drink beer and stuff on base at the enlisted um, little bar they had for everybody set up. So they decided to take me out on my 21st birthday, all my friends, my roommate, and this and that, and yeah, it was quite the night. We went to the first bar. I think we went to several, but I can't remember anything past the first bar. But they were pouring alcohol down my throat like it was crazy. I mean, I started off with a beer, and then next thing you know, someone's grabbing my head and pouring a bottle of alcohol down my throat and shaking my head and blowing whistles, and it was just crazy. And then back to beer, and then back to alcohol. It was really really bad. So I don't remember a whole lot of anything, but I do remember my roommate carrying me back to my room at 0 dark 30. I couldn't even tell you it was. Um, and all I remember was we were on the third floor of the barracks, and I'm looking over the barracks at the cement floor that's 3 stories down, thinking, "Uh oh, I'm fixing to get killed here." So somehow or another, he miraculously makes it into our room and throws me in my bed. Well, next thing you know, I'm waking up 2 days later in the bathroom in front of the toilet because I've been puking for he said days. I don't even recall, but it was my birthday. I can't remember what day my birthday was on, but it was definitely 2 days later, and I was still. Only thing I remember is being in front of the toilet. So I said, "Boom, done." And I have an uncanny ability to, once I'm done with something, I can just shut it off like a switch. And I said, "I'm done." Just flip the switch and no more. So I didn't drink after that. That was the end of my alcohol tour, and that was my 21st birthday. Well, a couple days later, but the actual drinking date was my 21st birthday. So 34 years later, still sober, not touched any drinks. I'm actually dead against it. I don't like seeing people drink. I don't condemn them for doing so. It's their choice, but I mean, on her, on the other hand, she's not allowed to. I'll smash her head.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's I do agree. I think you have this uncanny ability to turn things off. Just do a flip of the switch real quick, which is something we will talk about in another podcast, how you got to that point, why you're able to do that, how you're mentally able to do that. Because I think a lot of people do struggle with turning things off at times. But yes, your sober journey is an interesting story. It is something to be very proud of, but I do agree, after being sober for just about 10 years, that I can be around people that drink and like whatnot, but I cannot stand drunk people. They get on my nerves almost immediately. I've actually almost gotten into a couple fights at some professional baseball games because of drunk people.
Oh yeah.
It's why we don't go to professional baseball games
Story
anymore.
for a different show.
Exactly. I think that's another story for a different show. Um, so yeah, I definitely can't stand being in that environment. I don't look down upon anybody that does drink because obviously we've both done it. We've both sort of been in that sort of situation. So let's dive back into the story. We've been hanging out for a while. Oh, it's been a couple weeks. Nothing like crazy, just hanging out. I finally get an apartment after living out of my car for a good while. I get an apartment, move in, settle in, yada, yada, yada. And then I invite you over for the first time. You walk in the house. we're chit chatting. You're like, hey, can I grab a bottle of water? Do you got a bottle of water? And I'm like, yep, sure do. Go ahead. Take a look. Just grab it out of the fridge. I think we were playing video games or something. I don't even remember. But told you to grab a bottle of water. And you go into the kitchen and you come back and you're empty handed. And you look at me and you're like, there is no water in your fridge, but there is something that we need to talk about. So this is where you kind of come in. When you opened up the fridge, what did you see?
I saw that refrigerator completely. Now, when I say completely, I mean completely full of nothing but alcoholic beverages. There was no food in there. There was no ketchup in there. There was nothing in
The
there.
audacity to not have ketchup.
I mean, a refrigerator without ketchup, that's just odd in itself. However, there was no ketchup in there. There was alcohol, and this kind of alcohol, and this kind of alcohol, and this kind of alcohol. There was no water.
There might have been a couple mixers in there, but
I mean, there's water like in the drink that they mixed the alcohol with, but theoretically speaking, there was actually no water to drink. So yeah, I came back to you and I was like, "Yo, I think we need to have a chat," and that's what we did. I kind of walked her back into the kitchen. She's like, "What do we need to talk about?" And I was like, "Open up the refrigerator," and I was like, pointed at the refrigerator, and I said, "This is a problem, yo. You got to get rid of this shit." And I mean, literally stood there and said, "Let's get this now." And at that particular point in time, she looked at me like I was crazy, and she's like, "What? You don't drink?" And kind of looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, "I can't be around this, and I actually will not be in a relationship with anybody that does this." So I said, "You either choose this or you choose that, because if you don't, then I'm out of here."
yep. And obviously, I made my decision back then. I did choose you. What proceeded after that, though, I probably could have murdered you because you proceeded to then dump.
I started dumping alcohol into the sink, and she's like, looked at me like I was killing somebody.
There was probably $300 worth of alcohol in there that you
She's lying. There was more like more like
a
$1,000
thousand
alcohol.
dollars. No, not quite that much. But yeah, you're dumping a couple $100 down the drain. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but divorce is expensive. So I was broke. I could afford the alcohol. I found a way to afford the alcohol, but I was broke. And to sit there and watch him dump all that down was not fun. It was not easy. And like I said, I could have hurt you. Now, could I have actually hurt you? No. You would have ninja kicked me or done something crazy because at that time I wasn't training yet. So I did not know anything that I know today back then, and I would not have made it very far. But what made you decide to start, or I guess what made you decide to help me after you've seen the fridge? Like, what are the first thoughts that you're thinking? And then proceeding after that, because the months after that were not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I was a very angry individual, lashed out, dealt with a lot of other mental health issues along the way throughout those couple months that you had to deal with. For not being together but a couple weeks, you chose to help me through that and then proceeded to stay with me through some of the worst I was personally. The worst person I was probably back then.
Well, contrary to popular belief, I'm a nice guy. So
You are a nice guy.
I
I will say that.
I saw a person that needed my help, and I thought this was something that I wanted to stay into. And I mean, I'm
So what you're saying is you liked me.
so so I mean, I saw somebody who was in need and needed my help. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when I first opened that refrigerator, the first thought that popped in my head was, "Oh my God, I'm out of here. I ain't sticking around for this. This is a train wreck right here." And so
Thanks, hon.
I was like, "I'm out of here." But then something clicked, and I was like, "I think she needs help, so I'm gonna help her." So I mean, I liked her, and I was like, "I'm going to step up and be the man she needs right now." And so I did. I stepped up, said, "This shit's gone," and I started dumping the stuff out right in front of her face. I didn't care. If she would have started swinging, I just would have blocked it and just kept dumping with the other hand. That's how I am.
Absolutely. So you helped me through quite a lot because, like I said, those months to follow after that were not easy. And if anybody ever tells you sobriety journey is easy, they're lying. And I said that in the first episode. I'm going to say that in every episode. It is not easy. I still struggle from time to time, but now we kind of talk about when I hit those moments or like I'm dealing with emotions that I don't know what to do or how to feel. At times, I do still try to keep it to myself, but luckily enough, you can read body language enough at this point to know, like, oh, there's something wrong and we need to figure out what it is and get down to the bottom. Because I do have triggers, things that um, came from my childhood through just some of the experiences that I've had. One of the big ones I struggle with the most is feeling like somebody is talking down to me or like tries to correct me. Um, if it's done or I feel it's done in a bad way, I immediately lash out and become very angry. And that's something that you've experienced a lot of, not saying that you've ever talked down to me or corrected me harshly. Fighting you have, I will say that. Fighting you have definitely corrected me harshly. And that's needed for that, so I'm not
Yeah,
whatever.
let's just get this straight. First off, in the ring, I am not a cheerleader. If you're fucking up, you're gonna know immediately.
So back to what we're talking about. Sorry for that little PSA. But anytime I feel like you're like, hey, maybe you should do it this way, I immediately just like, why are you telling me that? Do you think I'm not good enough? Like, I immediately go to that sort of behavior. Luckily enough, you've been great when I do get into that sort of mode, you're just like, let's stop. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about this. I'm not talking down. I'm just trying to provide maybe a different perspective on whatever it is, type thing. And I think that's been my biggest help because as much as you like to not call yourself a cheerleader, you've been my biggest cheerleader through all of this. Always cheering me on, always being there.
Well, sometimes there's a different approach. You have to do different things. I mean, fighting, I'm a fighter, and I'm always gonna live by that rule. But when it comes to matters of the heart or other situations like that, sometimes you have to flank them. You have to come from the other side. You can't head on attack. You have to get it from the other side. So, that's I see kind of your facial expressions and that you're getting angry, and I'm like, okay, this ain't gonna work this way. I'm gonna have to do it like this and come in from the other side. So, I mean,
You've
I,
adapted.
yeah, I can definitely adapt. I can definitely adapt to different situations pretty easily, especially when it comes to you and I.
And it doesn't have to just be you and I, because you do, I would say, a lot of people don't know, but Jack LaGrange is actually a big softy at heart and cares
Don't let her
for,
don't let her fool you.
he cares for everybody. And I see it every day in the gym. Everybody that we coach, teach, whatever. He doesn't just coach and teach them on the mats in the ring, but he has helped several through life experiences, things that they've struggled with, whatever it may be, because he's able to read when something's off when they're in the gym. It's like, hey man, what's going on? Let's talk about it, type thing. So you are really good at that. And you were really good at that as a cop as well, being able to be like, there's something more going on here besides just they committed whatever crime it is. Like, what's going on, type thing. So,
Well, I mean, ultimately, I mean, even when I was a police officer, I mean, you go to a scene and 9 times out of 10, it was, something can handle just by talking to them. You didn't have to just arrest somebody right off the, I mean, don't get me wrong, okay? A lot of shitheads I took to jail. I got a lot of arrests, but there was a lot of times where I could have made an arrest and felt it better if I could just talk them out of this because not everybody needs to go to jail. A lot of people need to go to jail. A lot of people need to go under the jail, but some people just need to be talked to. And a lot of the times I would be dispatched to calls and I would definitely be able to just step right up and get right in there and get to the root of the problem and fix it. I mean, I've always been kind of good at that.
yeah. And I would say that that behavior, I don't know where you learned that or that ability to just kind of talk to people because you can talk to anybody and literally get them to tell you whatever it is that you need, which is probably why you were successful as a cop. But just in general, and that's something that I would say I now do as well. I talk to people, I realize like how I can help them in any way, and it's one of my biggest goals is to help as many as people as possible, and it's why I did start this podcast. It's why I do teach classes now, and I do try if I see somebody going through something like how can I help you, and that I think stems from childhood, whatever it may be, in the sense that I didn't have that superhero, so that saying when people are like, who you are as an adult is who you needed as a child, that is literally 100% what I am doing in life. And I don't know if that's why you are the way you are, if because who
Well,
you
that's
are
true.
today
I
is who you
mean, I
needed back
mean,
then.
me growing up, I mean, I've been a fighter ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I started boxing when I was 9. Boxing fights, karate fights, in the ring, kickboxing fights, Muay Thai fights. I mean, you name it, I've been doing it. And my dad's seen one fight my whole career. And I have over 50 fights. And he's seen one. That's it.
So I would say who you are today is who you needed when you were a child. So that was a lot. We covered a lot of deep topics today in the podcast. This is just a little taste of what to expect coming in the future. I plan to interview a wide variety of people. Jack will be back on this podcast in the future, talking about some of his military police experiences and his ability to flip a switch and just shut things off. It's something I at times envy because it's not something that I am capable of. I don't think you should do it all the time, but I do think it is a useful tool to handle certain things in life as you're going through. So, with that, we will end the podcast. Do you have any last words for our audience, Jack?
Try to be a better person.
Try to be a better person. I like it. All right, guys, so stay weird, stay loud, and always embrace the chaos.